Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It is Monday, October 13th, Columbus Day. It's almost 8 o'clock at night, and this is our daily recap video for our weekly paying income funds from YieldMax, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, SLTY, the Ultra Short Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry Option Income Fund. Reminder, I'm on X at ETF_inspector1. Follow me on there to find out when videos are premiering and get reposts of all the different ETFs I talk about with their announcements, trades, all that good stuff. All right, let's just get right into it. Had a very late, long work day and then had to stop for soccer practice on the way home from work, so I'm just getting home. So let's just get into it. I didn't get to pay too much attention to the market today because of being busy with work, but I do know it was up. So we're rebounding from Friday. ULTY up over 2%. So they had a great day. Almost makes that Friday drop disappear. When we go to LFGY, they also had a great day, up 3.14%. That really beautiful. And then if everything's rebounding, SLTY's going to get their teeth kicked in, dropping down 2.2% to 39.36. I was wondering if that was the lowest they've been, but they have been in the 38.70s. All the rest of them we will get into within the spreadsheet on an individual basis. So that's the big picture. We'll take a look at trades first, and we'll start with ULTY since they're everybody's favorite. All right, and what we had, no shares traded as far as closing out, selling to close anything out, or buying to add anything to the fund. So it's just options trades. We're going to be adjusting our strike prices on our options, calls and puts for coin, collecting $4.6 million on that one. 4.8 million just from the put. That protective put locked in lots of money. Obviously, then there were some expenses. That's why it ended 4.6. For CoreWeave, we were just adjusting the call strike price down closer to the money. That brought in 913,000. Figma, same thing, adjusting the strike on the sold calls down closer to the money, brought in 663,000. Hood for Robinhood, again, same thing, just adjusting the sold call strike down closer to the money. That allowed them to collect $826,000. MP Material Corp. This one's not a complete closeout of the position. The orange ones are kind of the under construction look. So when we flip to the next page, we know which ones not to talk about because they've been completely closed out. MP Materials Corp. This is just a partial of the position, but in any case, obviously the strike price or the share price went up beyond the strike price. It cost lots to close out, and $7.7 million on that adjustment. Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, adjusting their sold call strike closer to the money, $239,000 collected. And New Scale Power, here's another one where they only did a partial because the share price went up beyond the strike price, and that cost $6.9 million. So all in all, on the trading day, it was a debit or loss of $7.3 million, and that's going to go along with an increase in the share values of approximately $170 million. So very quickly made back what we lost on Friday. All right, next we're going to take a look at how the underlyings themselves performed and where our options sit now. Firm was up 2.8%. Their calls sold at 78 are still well out of the money, 6.5%. They've also sold calls at 65 or puts at 65 to help pay for their protective puts. They're 11+% out of the money. Bullish was actually down 1.4%. Sold calls at 64 are 7.5% out of the money. I should say everything's expiring this Friday unless I point out otherwise. Bitmine Immersion up 7.6%. Calls are still out of the money at 57.50 and 61. They're 1.7 and just about 8% out. Centene Corp, there's no shares. It's just the put spread, and these sold puts at 37 are still actually in the money by 1 3/4%. Coinbase dropped a fraction, 2 cents. They took the win on the further out of the money positions, and they still have calls at 370 that are 3.6% out. CoreWeave was up 2.3%. Again, took the win on the further out position, and the 144s are still in play, 1.6% out of the money. There's $596 million in assets under management. $596 million in First American government obligation funds. You can tell I'm on autopilot. And that goes along with a negative $23 million as far as cash and other. Figma up 5.27%. Again, taking the win on the further out positions. $70 calls are still in play, 8.9% out of the money. Galaxy Digital, another one of the put spreads with no actual shares held. Sold puts at $39.50 are 4.2% out of the money. Hims and Hers was up almost 1.5%. They have calls at 56 and 60. They're still 2.3 and 9.6% out of the money. And then they have sold puts at 38 and 42 to help pay for the protective puts at 50 and 52. The sold puts are 23 and 30% out. Robinhood was up 1.25. They took the win and adjusted the strike closer on the further out calls. They still have 146 calls in play that are almost 3.8% out of the money. Lucid Group was up almost 2%, still 9.8% out of the money on sold $23.50 calls. Lululemon's the last of the put spreads that they have. Sold puts at 172.50 are still in the money by 1.5%. MP Material Corp up over 21%, and you don't see green there. That means something rose even more than 21%. They have calls that are at 86 that are sold. They're 9.5% in the money. So they did get to capture a large portion of that 21% increase. So that's not bad, and they did not make an adjustment. So maybe they're thinking things will pull back, or even if they don't, just a little bit of time value will decay away before they close those. Strategy was up 3.5%. Closing out the further position out of the money, they still have 332.50s in play that are 5.4% out. Open Door, actually the big loser today, down almost 4%. Calls sold at 8 and 8.50 are 10 and almost 17% out of the money. Palantir was up 1% today. They have calls sold at 185 that are 4.4% out of the money. Pony AI up 9.36%, taking their 2150s into the money by 3.1%. They're a large portion, 40,000 contracts. At 2350, there's 10,000 contracts. They're still 5.9% out. Quantum Computing up 12.86% today. They've got a red light here. Some in the money, some close, and some far out. 21s are 2% in the money. 2250s are 4.8% out of the money, and 23s are 7.1% out of the money. Rigetti Computing was the big winner today, up over 25%. It took all their sold calls into the money at 48, 49, and 50. They are just about 9, 10, and 12.5% in the money. Again, no action taken, so they're going to let some time value decay and see if maybe there's a little bit of a pullback after such a large increase. But right there, just Rigetti shares alone, their 3.6 million shares, increased the value of the fund by almost $40 million today. That's impressive. Rocket Lab up 1.8% today. Their sold calls at 70 are still well out of the money at 7% out. Rocket Companies up 0.4%. They have calls sold at 17.50 that are 6.3% out of the money, and puts sold at 14 to help pay for the protective puts. They're almost 15% out. NewScale Power was up nearly 15% today. It took both their calls in the money, $40.50 and $42. They're 10 and 6.7% in the money now. Sold puts to help pay for the protective puts. They're so far out you don't even have to worry about that, almost 30 and 33%. SoundHound AI up 10.25. just barely took their 19s into the money by 3/4, so they got to capture just about all of that. No action taken. Symbotic also up 10.5%. Took their $68 calls into the money by 3.5%, and their $71 calls are 0.6% out. Finally, Upstart was up 2.1%. They have calls sold at 55 that are 10.8% out, and they have puts sold at 42 to help pay for the protective puts. They're 15% out of the money. So that is how we had an increase of $170 million in the value of our underlyings within the fund. That is not a direct addition to the assets under management, because there was also a change in the value of every single option that's not getting updated instantaneously. We pick that up in the late night download and have the information for the following day. That's why we always tell you what the assets under management and outstanding shares are at the start of the day. So it was $3.3 billion when we started today. Obviously, it's going to be close to $3.5 billion. It'll just depend on if people bought into or sold out of the fund. And I believe if we do break that 3.5, that might be the highest it's ever been. Don't quote me on that. There's a possibility we've been a little higher, but we definitely are getting very close to the high if we aren't actually making it. 627,850,000 outstanding shares. At the start of the day, the NAV was 533, so we had a very nice increase to 542. Most recently, on Friday, they paid us 9.04 cents per share. All right. That's it for ULTY. Oh, actually, it's not it for ULTY. I did forget to mention on my week look-ahead video, if you did not watch that already, that used to be kind of the most popular. Somehow back when I had 2,000 subscribers, this video would get 2,000 plus views. Now that I got almost 5,000, it gets 1,000. So, but in any case, if you want to see how we came about to make the guesstimate, that's this video right here. But very long story short, my guesstimate for this week that I made on Sunday was actually under 9 cents, 8.68 cents. Now, they do make the final decision on Monday, so if I would think that they're going to keep the 9 cent streak going. I don't think they're going to drop it below 9 after the way the market bounced back. So that was really based off of the drop on Friday with the potential to continue dropping. So with that rebound, I think they will try to keep the 9 cent streak going. But either way, I still leave my my number alone. Maybe I'll just put a little 09 next to it, just to as a reminder that I did guess that maybe they would shift it up. But I leave that alone. We'll see how close it is. Next, let's go to SLTY next, just because we can get through them real nice and quick. They only had this trade for Bloom Energy where they closed their $84 puts and adjusted them closer to the money at $95. That brought in $9,900. That's the only trading. So overall for the day, they had a credit of $9,920. That's going to go along with a $1 million decrease in value because this fund shorts shares, and since everything went up, their expense to close them out goes up, which takes their money lower by $1 million. Before we flip pages, we'll talk about it here. I did guess 66.5 cents for SLTY, and we'll find out how close that is when we get the announcement on Wednesday. When we look at the holdings for SLTY, we got what, 12, 13-ish million dollars in treasuries. That's kind of where all the money sits after it gets collected from shorting all these shares. Normally you would buy shares and the money's sitting in them, but when you short shares, you collect the money up, but you're going to need to use it to buy to close. So that's where most of the money sits. Astera Labs down 3.24%, starting to fund off right. They want things to go down. That's why that increased the market value. They're the big loser as far as stocks, so that actually helps SLTY but their puts were already in the money, so they actually don't get to capture any of that because their put went even further in the money. So the expense to close that out will match the value increase to the fund, and it doesn't help them at all. Advanced Micro Device up 0.7. Puts are still in the money by almost 4% at 225. I don't know if you could hear that. Dog's got the zoomies. AST Space Mobile up over 10%. Puts at 84 are 7% out of the money. Bloom Energy, the big winner as far as a stock is concerned, but that hurts a lot. $368,000 decrease in value. And that brought their puts so far out of the money that they closed them and adjusted them to a new strike. BitDeer was up over 15%, and believe it or not, their puts are still in the money by 0.25% at 2050. Excuse me. Duolink, is this next? Nope. Circle Internet Group up 3.41%. Puts are still in the money, 141, 2.5% in the money. Duolingo, that was Circle Internet Group. This is Duolingo up 1.5%. And that brought the 325 puts out of the money by 1.5%. So they were right at the money. The other color that I'm not mentioning are sold calls just to help pay for the protective calls, and they're all so far out of the money they're not even worth talking about because of the way that the stocks are moving. Enphase Energy up 1.6%. Puts sold at 33.50 are 3.8% out. GitLab down just about 1%. 43.50 puts are still 1.5% out of the money. Iron up 7.3%. $58 puts are 9.5% out. Kratos Defense and Security Solutions up 1 3/4, and they're still about 1 3/4 in the money at 98 on those puts. Lemonade was up 4.8%, so they must have been right close to at the money because now they're 4.66% out on the 48s. Nebius Group up 4.5%. Puts at 126 are just about 7% out of the money. RH was up 4.6%. That brought their puts out of the money by 2.1% at 177.50. And finally, Tesla bounced big, 5.4%. Their 402.50 puts are now 7.6% out of the money. So that is how you had a $1 million decrease in the value of the fund because so many things went up, and when they go up, it decreases the value of a shorted fund. At the start of the day, 18 million in assets under management, so that's going to drop to about 17 million, and then depending on how many people bought into or sold out of the fund. We can adjust this here. Average puts 3.5% out of the money. NAV at the start of the day, $40.14. The share price of the fund dropped to $39.36. Based on how the day went, it was 60.87 cent distribution this past Friday. All right, and finally, LFGY. So their trading day was a little different. Not closing anything out whatsoever. So we're not really going to hit the highlight there like we normally do. No shares traded, bought or sold. So all they were doing was adding to their call spread on just about everything. Bitmine Immersion, BitDeer Technology, CleanSpark, Coinbase, Core Scientific, Circle Internet Group, iShares Ethereum Trust ETF. So Galaxy's one where they just sold more calls. They didn't, one more call. Oh, no. Sorry, 53 calls at $1. Didn't do a spread on that one. Back to spreads. GameStop, Robinhood, Hut 8 Corp, Mara, MBTX. Here's another one, Mercado Libre, where they only sold another call, not a call spread. Selling more call spreads on MicroStrategy, NU Holdings, and NVIDIA. And then just selling some more calls on Oprah and PayPal, and then more call spreads on Riot and XYZ. So all of that totaled a gain or a credit of $59,000 on the trading day. And we also had over $8 million increase in the value of the underlying shares, which we will get to in just a second. So a reminder from my week look ahead video, and I separated this one out, and I think put some extra in that a lot of people have been asking for. So this is the video here, LFGY and blocks. So blocks is very similar to LFGY in what it holds and how it trades, but it does do some extra strategies. You're seeing put spreads and call spreads sold on a lot of things. So I go into the details of that in that video, and also get into the distribution guesstimate. So I came up with 49.4 cents, so just under 50. I don't think, even though it bounced up today, I don't think I would want to move it up to 50 because 49 is already pretty high percentage, but maybe they would do another 50 cents. But I'll leave it alone. So 49.4 cents is my guesstimate. All right, when we switch over to the holdings, we start off with Bitmine Immersion up 7.6%. Now they don't do a collar strategy or a reverse collar strategy like you just saw in ULTY and SLTY. They do covered call strategy. So they're selling calls to generate income, and then most of the time they're also buying a call to help open back up the upside or to help limit the amount they'd have to pay in the event that their sold strike gets blown through. But they're not buying protective puts. All right, BitDeer Technology was up, the big winner, up over 15%. That did take their $20 calls into the money by 2.2%, but no action was taken. As far as today, they're going to let some time value decay away. CleanSpark up 3.9%, still 4.8% out of the money on those sold 21s. Coinbase was down a fraction, 2 cents to be exact. And they're still 12% out of the money on those $400 calls. Core Scientific was up 3.7%. Unfortunately, their 18s were already in the money and went deeper to 6.3. The good news, it's only 72 contracts. The one that matters, the 19s are 5,000 plus contracts, and they went into the money as well, but only by 1%. Core Scientific, we just did Core Scientific. Circle Internet Group up 3.4%. Calls sold at 155 are 12.7% out of the money. ETHA up 6.5%, still 5.6% out on those 34. First American Government Obligation Funds 3.2 million. There's a negative 900,000 there, so a little over $2 million sitting on the sidelines. Excuse me. Galaxy Digital up 4.7, still another 4.3 to go on those $43 calls. GameStop was up 1.2%. They have calls sold at $24.50 and $25. Really, the 25s don't matter. It's only 32 contracts compared to 2,300. 3.8 and just about 6% out. Robinhood Markets up 1.25%. $150 calls are 6.6% out of the money. Hut 8 Corp up 12.7%. Still 10% out of the money on those 54s, so they get to capture all of that almost $2 million increase. IBIT, iShares Bitcoin Trust, down a little over 0.5%. There's no options, so it's just the change in market value there. Mara Holdings up 8.5%. They had a huge day. $20.50 calls are still 1.2% out of the money. MBTX has two spreads. The first is a call credit spread where they're selling the 290. It's 5.8% out of the money after the small drop today in MBTX. And then they have a put debit spread where they purchase the 255s to try to earn income. They're 6.9% out. So the more the shares drop, the more of a winning trade that one becomes. And they have all the way till the end of the year on that put debit spread. Mercado Libre was up almost 2% today, and they're still 1.1% out of the money on those 2200s. Strategy up 3.5%. $342.50 calls are 8.5% out of the money. NU Holdings, unfortunately, was close to start with, so going up 1% took them into the money by 0.5% on those 15s. Nvidia was up 2.8%. They've got calls at 197.50 that are still 4.8% out. Opera was up 1.8%. They're still 21.8% out of the money on those $20 calls. PayPal, the big loser over here, down 1.4%. And that's a good day when you got things double digits up and your biggest down is 1%. So $76 calls are 10% out of the money. Riot Platforms up 3+%. 2250s are still 3.6% out. And finally, Block up almost 0.5%. $79 calls are still 5.3% out of the money. So that's how we had an $8.1 million increase in the value of the fund. That's huge. With a $200 million AUM, 5,675,000 outstanding shares. NAV at the start of the day, 36.35. Obviously, had lots of increase in the trading day. And most recently, they paid us 51.02 cents per share on Friday. So even with the large increases, our average call is still 5.3% out of the money. So we still have lots of room to go where we can capture the increases in our share price without losing trades. All right, that's all I have for you. My blocks video is out for last week. This one's not all set up for automatic updates or anything like that. So if you want the blocks information, you got to go back and watch the other video. Just know that they look to pay a 36% annual yield, roughly. So the most recent distribution went X on Friday. So if you own the shares on Friday and you had purchased them prior to Friday, you're getting 18.41 cents per share tomorrow, the 14th. All right, that's all I got for you. I got a dad joke, and then we'll get you guys out of here. I do have to admit before I tell this joke that I had to look it up because I didn't even get it. So hopefully you guys get it. But thanks for watching. Appreciate all the comments, the likes, the shares, the follows on X, all that good stuff. So, all right, dad joke of the day. How do you keep a bagel from running away? You put locks on it. All right, so I'm going to... Hopefully you're all smarter than me and you're laughing, and then you're laughing at me for not knowing this. But I had to look it up, and it said lox is a type of cold smoked and cured salmon, often served on a bagel with cream cheese, capers, and red onions. So hopefully you guys got that. I'd never heard it before. I'm boring. I just put butter on my bagels. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in the next video.